it's finally time that kind of year to rank the top 10 worst movies of 2021. My name is Matt Sinberg. It's had to stop and rank all the 10 least favorite films of the entire year. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, streaming platform reviews, movie rankings like these, including my best of the year list releasing at the same time as this review. And please, I also do a box office breakdown. So please subscribe, ring the bell. We're trying to get to well over 200 subscribers in the year 2022. Let's get there. Let's start building up this channel to new heights. So please subscribe. Also comment down below. Let me know your 10 worst films of the entire year. And also let me know, are some of these films I have in my top 10 least some of your favorites? I do have maybe one controversial pick in here. So I'd love to talk about it with you guys in the comment section down below. And also please like the video. That's how you support the channel the best way. So we're gonna do some 3 honorable mentions that just missed the list. And then we're gonna go 10 to 1. So some honorable mentions for me. The first one is a Netflix film, Things Heard and Seen. A really disappointing horror thriller on Netflix with Amanda Seyfried. Just not a good experience whatsoever watching that film. False Positive on Hulu, and Awake on Netflix. So let's start talking about the top 10 worst films for me of the entire year. Starting off at number 10 is The Voyeurs, which is on Prime Video. Just did not like this movie. This movie was definitely not for me, but also the story just didn't come all the way together. Sydney Sweeney, Justice Smith in the lead roles, and it's kind of a Rear Window, basically ripoff, where Sydney Sweeney and her husband are basically spying on this really sexual couple across the way. Their doors are always open, and it then leads to some dark stuff happening in their lives, and how deep they go into spying on these people turns into an unhealthy obsession for Sydney Sweeney's character. So these are 2 actors I really, really enjoy. Again, I've done all 4 full reviews of all of these movies, so I'm not going to go too deep, but just a unlikable set of characters, really, except Justice Smith. And sadly, he gets left on the sidelines for most of the film. A lot of characters make really, really dumb decisions. This is clearly a ripoff of a classic film, just not done right. Doesn't feel like it's paying homage, feels like it's ripping off a previous film. In the last 30 minutes, this movie becomes a cartoon with the twists and the turns of the movie. It makes absolutely no sense, and it pulls me completely out of it. I was kind of at the average mark, I would say. Then the last 30 minutes goes completely downhill. It has made this one of the worst movies of the year. Sexual erotic thriller that just wasn't for me. Number 9, let's go to Netflix with Afterlife of the Party. I've seen a lot of people positively talk about this movie. This movie, again, was just not for me. Victoria Justice is fine in the lead role. What kind of kills this movie for me is just a really unlikable, once again, just like the last film, a really unlikable, even more so, in a very unlikable main character. Victoria Justice is someone that you're just not rooting for before she gets killed. She's a social person who then dies during her birthday week and is given a second chance to right her wrongs on Earth. But she's so unlikable before she dies. You don't really see a glimpse of positivity or a good person in her until she's dead already. And I think that was a big misfire from a story point of view. I thought her best friend was actually the best part of the entire film, played by Midori Francis. But overall, some awful CGI showing some of the angels and heaven. There's also too many storylines going on. It feels like they wanted the best friend storyline to be the main one, but there's also a whole subplot with the mom and the father individually that doesn't really get introduced until halfway through the movie. So I just wish the film had it was a better structured film, giving you a chance to root for Victoria Justice as a character. Instead, they just want you to do it because she's Victoria Justice. Number 8, let's go to Bliss. Now, this is a film that, again, this was on, I believe, Prime Video. Bliss is just not for me once again. This is a tough one for me not to like. It's a sci-fi film starring Owen Wilson and Salma Hayek. I don't think a lot of people even heard about this movie coming out. It's Greg, played by Owen Wilson. He's been divorced. He meets this mysterious character played by Salma Hayek, who is living on the streets. And then they realize that what is a computer simulation and what is the real life. It is a genius concept done in the most boring way possible. This is by far the most boring movie experience I've had all year long. Especially when you have 2 really great actors in the lead roles. They have good chemistry with each other, but the whole story just feels really bland. The actual way they show the difference between the real world, there's a lot of rules that are just assumed that don't make a lot of sense. As I said, the characters in this movie is just beyond bland and boring, which again, this movie was not for me. A concept that worked, but the execution done terribly wrong. Moving into number 7, The Princess Switch 3 on Netflix. This franchise, I think, has made the top 10 worst, all of the 3 films. Just not an enjoyable film. I am someone who does really enjoy Vanessa Hudgens, but this movie makes the most annoying character, from the second movie, the third Vanessa Hudgens, the main character. So you have a very unlikable main character. The other 2 Vanessas are very much sidelined, and this is sadly a heist film, which is a badly done heist film where they try to give all 3 Vanessa Hudgens, again, the romance. They have to do the princess switch again, which again doesn't make any sense why they need to switch again. And the fact that this is a heist film with your criminal Vanessa Hudgens being the main character just doesn't really make total sense. She was annoying in a very small part of the second film, and now she gets upgraded for some reason to main character. Just didn't come all the way together for me. Let's do number 6. And this is the most controversial one on this list, and that is Love Hard. Now, I know a lot of people actually have this as one of their favorite Netflix films of the year, one of their favorite movies of the year. And I'm so happy that most people love this movie. This film, again, just not for me. This is a rom-com that is one of the most predictable experiences I've had watching a movie all year long. I actually really like the chemistry between Nina Dobrev and Jimmy O Yang. They're both excellent in the film, but at times there are some characters who get absolutely abused by this situation of basically getting catfished. And the second boy here, Darren Barnett, he actually gets used by both main characters in the film. You kind of feel bad for him. The extent of the lying becomes quite ridiculous, and it leads to a very predictable third act that doesn't really leave any positive messages. I just did not really love this film. It's too predictable for me. There's so many cringeworthy moments that I just didn't want to watch. But again, is it the top 5 worst? No, just because this main cast is really solid. Now let's talk about the 5 worst films that I really hate. All 5 of these movies. So this one, the last couple have been bad, terribly done. These are 5 movies I passionately just don't like. The only movie on this list that I saw in theaters is number 5, and that is Space Jam: A New Legacy. I thought the movie was an awful and one of the biggest examples of an advertisement for a studio gone wrong. This is basically a 2-hour Warner Brothers commercial that just happened to be a Space Jam film. LeBron James, who is, again, my favorite athlete of all time, liked him in Trainwreck, is awful in the lead role. And it feels like the script gives him, when he's actually LeBron James human form, too many times where he has to give monologues. They're not that great. The only saving grace for this film is Don Cheadle playing this ridiculous AI version of Warner Brothers. And the biggest problem is that the actual basketball stuff is terrible in the movie. The last 30 minutes, which is just the basketball scene, the rules are confusing. How the villain could be defeated made absolutely no sense. And you were distracted because while the basketball game was going on, all of these cameos from all of the Warner Brothers IP were all over the court, and you had no idea where to look during the basketball game, which is the culmination of the film. It was a confusing film to follow, a Warner Brothers advertisement done absolutely wrong, and some really awful performances and messages that just got forgotten about halfway through. So Space Jam: A New Legacy, people in my theater who watched it in July really liked it. Sadly, I actually hated this experience. Number 4, I'm sure everyone will have this in their bottom 10 of the year, and that is Thunder Force, one of the worst Netflix action films I've seen in maybe ever. Especially when you're talking about the people behind in front of the camera. The Ben Falcone, Melissa McCarthy tandem once again misses the mark. This might be their worst film to date, with Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. But you also have in the film Jason Bateman, who saves some of his scenes in it. He plays his crab arms. You have Bobby Cannavale, Pom Clemente, and Melissa Leo. There's a lot of actors in there, but this is a really awfully done action comedy. None of the jokes worked. It feels like there's no script, and they just told Melissa McCarthy just to make her own jokes and write her own, improvise the whole time. And Octavia Spencer already isn't a funny actress, and you need Melissa McCarthy to really carry the comedy for this movie to work. And I'm a huge Melissa McCarthy fan. Whenever you put her with her husband, the director Ben Falcone, she just doesn't come off as funny. A lot of the jokes are really cringeworthy. Jokes go on for so long in the film that it gets really annoying. And the action itself is pretty rough as well. Other than Jason Bateman, this film is a pretty awful Netflix original film. Bottom three here, let's go to HBO Max with Tom and Jerry. This movie came out at the beginning of the year, limited in theaters because during the pandemic at the time, movie theaters were not as open as they were now. But Tom and Jerry, a really awful experience where they made the human characters led by Chloe Grace Moretz, Michael Pena, Colin Jost, Rob Delaney, the main focus of the movie. And the way that Chloe Grace Moretz's character works at this hotel is a really, really bad message for kids. The only fun parts are where Tom and Jerry are on screen, but it feels like they had a script and they had a story and they were like, we can just put the Tom and Jerry logo on and have Tom and Jerry do some fun stuff during the film. It is the human stuff and the Tom and Jerry stuff just doesn't work at all. There's some really awful dialogue and acting that from the human characters. And again, another cross between live action and animated where the live action stuff this time is the awful part of the movie and the actual Tom and Jerry stuff is quite fun, but the human stuff is really unbearable to watch at times. Really dumb decisions, some really bad acting. The script is so stereotypical and cliche of New York. I just did not like this movie. Second worst film preview of the year was Home Sweet Home Alone. A awful attempt to bring back the Home Alone franchise in time for Christmas. This came out on Disney Plus Day. And again, we just talked about a decision where they made the humans the main characters and Tom and Jerry the side characters. So this film does another similar thing in the Home Alone franchise where it makes the villains of the movie, the two people trying to sneak into a children's house to get stuff, the main focus of the film. They're trying to make you feel empathy for the main characters, while the kid seems like just a jerk who's just trying to make these people seem really dumb. The Ellie Kemper, Rob Delaney are really, really dumb characters who make dumb mistakes. And the fact that they're the main characters when the culprits are the main characters of a Home Alone film was already a bad enough sign. I like Archie Yates a lot, but his character is so one note. He actually doesn't have a character to him other than just creating these traps for the main characters. It was a total misfire, wasn't very funny, didn't really feel like a Home Alone film until the last 20 minutes of the movie. The callbacks to the franchise are not very good and just a unfunny experience on Disney Plus. And wrapping up this year is the film that I've had in each of these two films in the franchise were my least favorite films of that year. That was 2018 and 2020. Let's do 2021 to wrap up this franchise. The Kissing Booth 3 is an awful franchise, done really bad. And this film might be the worst film in the franchise. Actually, it's better than 2, but it's really these privileged kids who are in there. It's just unlikable characters. Joey King, this is the most unlikable I've ever seen Joey King in a lead role. She's such a jerk to her father, to her friend, to her boyfriend. It just gets a little bit too ridiculous. The actual idea of these kids having this beach house, of course it goes wrong. And the way the movie is trying to send out the message that you need to make your own decisions in life to move on in college, and your life decisions shouldn't be based on other people. That just didn't come through whatsoever. The film isn't funny. The first hour of the film feels like just a vacation that was filmed, showing all these actors hanging out together on set. And then the last 45 minutes is a serious drama about these relationships and messages. Those two films just don't work together. So I really do not like The Kissing Booth 3. That's my top 10 least favorite films of the year. At the same time as this video is released, my top 10 best will be coming out. So definitely watch that video and have a great 2022 and a happy new year.